Hey there, crafty friends. It's Tina the Scrappin' Rabbit. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today. In this video, we are going to make a fall-themed card, stretching our supplies with this lovely unicorn stamp set. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our stamp set, the lovely unicorns, and stamp and emboss the image. This particular stamp set is one of my favorites in terms of images for unicorns. I just love the artwork on this set. I'm prepping the paper with some anesthetic powder tool, and I'm also going to use some Scotch tape to tape off the horn. So I'm not going to create a unicorn today. I'm going to create a horse. So all I'm doing is taping over the horn so that I don't get ink on it. I'm going to ink up the stamp set, pull off the tape, sorry I did that off camera, and then go ahead and put that on my cardstock. And as you can see, the horn is not there. Now there is a little bit of a nub, so we're going to fix that as soon as we get it embossed. Using some clear embossing powder, I'm going to go ahead and cover the image. I went ahead and stamped 2. I like to do 2 cards when I create because it definitely doesn't take much more effort to create that second card when you got getting all your supplies out for the one. Getting my heat tool nice and hot, I'm going to melt that embossing powder, and then here is where I'm going to go ahead and fix that horn. I've got this marker here that is Copic friendly, and I'm just drawing a little triangle over that area to make it look like the backside of the horse's ear. So now I'm grabbing my Copics. The darkest color for her fur is going to be the E35. I'm basically going to do a little outlining around where I feel the shadows are going to be on the image, so around the underparts but not across the top. Once I get that first layer down, I'm going to blend it out with the E31. This horse is going to have a tan-ish color coat, and so the colors that I'm using are going to be going from dark to light, the E35, the E31, the E41, and the E40. So I'm just blending out any of the harsh lines using the E41, and then the majority of the coat is going to be the E40, which is a very light beige color. So I like to do 2 different coats of color when I am using Copics. So this is the first laydown of color right there. I'm leaving a little white on the forehead and around the eyes and the muzzle. So the muzzle is going to be in gray tones. So I'm using my warm grays, the W5, W3, and the W1. And now here I'm adding that second layer of color. It's going to help add a little bit more depth and dimension, and then make the overall color of the horse a little bit deeper. So just going over those initial lines that I laid down in the same exact order, the E35, E31, and then the E41. I'm just going to go ahead and get all of her coat colored in. I do take a long time to color, and I often get asked to show all the steps, so I'm leaving the coloring in for the most part so that you guys can see how you can create a horse out of this unicorn stamp. Again, the E40 is the lightest, and it's just that second coat that fills it in just a little bit and deepens the color. Now that her coat is all colored in, I'm going to go ahead and work on the mane and the tail. But I do need to do a second coat there on her muzzle. So the second go round, I am bringing in the W7 just to add a little bit of contrast with the blacks. And then with the tail and the mane, I'm using the same colors, the W7, the W5, the W3, and the W1, but I will go in the second time around and add a little bit of the W9. I find that going in with the darkest color that second time around really helps to make the more of a contrast without having to get your colors too dark. So I'm blending that out with the W1, and that is the first coat. And then now I'm here is that W9 where I'm going in just a little bit around the edges with that deeper color for more contrast. I find that if I start with my darkest color, then I end up with everything being too dark. So that way I just add that deepest color when I go in the second time around. And then just doing little flicking type of strokes to add lines that look like the hair, and then leaving some of that white space open for the lightest color, the W1, to blend that out. And there is the tail. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same exact thing using the same color progression with the mane on her head and on her side of her neck there. And so I'll skip forward a little bit to save a little time for the video, but there is the completed coloring for her fur and her mane and tail. Now I'm just adding a little of those warm grays for her hoof. And then I got to fill in her little ear. So I'm just going to do the E40s and the E41 and then add a little bit of E01. I like the E01. It gives a nice little soft flesh tone for the inside of ears. I often do that. And there's that shine from the embossing and the coloring, and I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut her out using my small pair of scissors, and that completes the image. To do the background panel, I'm going to be using the Meadow Scene Builder stamp set, and I'm just going to stamp and emboss in black ink across the center of my layer some of the same VersaFine black ink, and I'm going to go ahead and emboss it with the clear embossing powder. I'm using Bristol Smooth cardstock for this layer because I am going to be using my Distress inks, and I find that the Distress inks blend the best on Bristol Smooth cardstock. Before I do the inking though, I'm going to go ahead and use the Autumn Sentiment, and this is from the Autumn Thanks stamps. And I'm going to emboss it just like I did the image and that meadow background, only I'm going to use a gold embossing powder this time. The gold embossing powder is called Gold Rush from Ink on 3, and I'm going to go ahead and get that layer down. I feel like with the fall, the gold really looks nice. So now that I have my background panel stamped, I'm going to use my little mini Distress ink cubes with some greens. You can choose any greens that you like. I chose these three here: the Peeled Paint, the Shabby Shutters, and the Bundled Sage. I'm not going to be too particular as to how I blend these in. I'm just adding that little green background, and I'm going over the stamped grass and the flowers. I'm not too concerned about being perfect with that. And once I get the greens down, I'm going to do the sky. And unfortunately, I didn't hit record when I did the Builder Clouds stencil and these little mini Distress inks. And I really love the way that it turned out, especially with the gold sentiment. I'm adding some Copics to the flowers, coloring right over that green ink, and the Copics cover that up just nicely. I ran it through a stitched rectangle die, and I also stamped and embossed the smaller greeting and cut out a little mini flag, and then that basically is the card design. So now I just have to get everything adhered to my A2 top folding card base. I'm going to use some liquid glue for the main panel there. Get that adhered to the front of my cardstock. The die is just smaller than an A2 size, so I have that white trim going around the edges. I'll pop the image up using some double-sided adhesive foam, and then I'll go ahead and glue down the banner as well. I also pulled out some sparkly gems so that I can have a little bit of sparkle on the front of my card. So I decided to go with 3 little gems, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere those down with my liquid glue as well. And that completes my first card. So for my second card, I basically did the same exact design, only I stamped a second sentiment. So I have one that says Autumn Blessings and one that says Autumn Greetings. And those are my 2 cards. I want to thank you all so much for stopping by the channel and watching. I hope you'll check out these amazing products from the Miss Ink Stamps shop. The links will all be in the description box below. And I hope that you liked my video, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Until next time, everyone, happy crafting. Bye for now.